Hello there, and I hope you are having a good day. As you can see from the title, I am going to contribute to the ongoing discussion on YouTube on books versus ebooks. Like many people, I prefer physical books. However, I have discovered that ebooks could be quite useful, and I wanted to share why with you. I have a list here, but I will try to keep it as a discussion. First of all, there are many giveaways. And as someone that lives in Malta, which is kind of not that well known and not that it is accessible, but it's kind of expensive by post, ebooks giveaways are more accessible to me. So having an e-reader, this is a Nook Simple Touch, which I actually bought from eBay UK for a few euros cheaper than on Barnes and Nobles, and it's quite good. So I would suggest it. It's cheap. It's like 60 sterling, and it has the basic functions. It doesn't have internet. I will get to that later. But having bought a new reader, I find it really easier. I mean, you can have ebooks and read them on your laptop or on your phone. I really don't get reading on phone. I mean, it's so small. But anyway, having an e-reader is really helps. And there are also free ebooks. Sometimes you get free books, but they're quite rare. Whereas with ebooks, it's more easier to have free ones. For example, there's Smashwords, which has a free section. Actually, all retailers have a free section, including Barnes and Nobles. So you can read something great for free. You can also, this applies for both physical and ebooks. You can borrow them or lend them out. Of course, it's much easier if the book is physical then, because then you would require programs to transfer from one e-reader to another if you want to do it legally. Um, Also, there's a two-edged thing here. Sometimes, I'm reading Love in the Times of Cholera, and that's quite a big book. But if I see it on my e-reader, the page count doesn't matter. You don't see a thick book. And so you are more prone to say, okay, I want to try it, I want to read it. But on the other hand, you don't know how much you actually achieved. You don't see it on your bookshelf and you see, ooh, I read all of this book. You don't get that feeling with ebooks. Which is why I suggest you try to read a book as an ebook if it's big, and then actually buy it in case you want to mark it or something. The e-reader allows you usually to mark some things, but it's much easier to mark pages on a physical book. And this is why I have these things where if I'm reading an ebook, I write on paper. Paper is quite handy, even though it's not that environmentally friendly, but then again, you charge your e-reader. The charge stays a long time though, that's another thing. But anyway, and then I will have the paper, I will put them in the pouches and I will put them in a library. That way, even though they're technically not in your library, sometimes it's much easier to have everything as a physical book because you know exactly what you have. Sometimes you forget what ebook you have. But if you have these little pouches with notes, then at least they're present on your bookshelf. Also, I found them quite handy. When your printer is not working or you run out of ink and you need something for class, or I have, for example, instead of printing a poem, I have used my e-reader for the Poetry Thursday Sappho poems. Link right here. And well, reading from my e-reader was proved to be much easier. Sometimes you need notes with you, and your e-reader is more of, don't have a lot of paper running around. That's quite handy. So it's not just for ebooks. It's also good to have when traveling. If it has internet, you don't have to carry a huge ass laptop with you, which I have to, which is why sometimes I bought it purposefully without internet, but sometimes I wish I had, but only sometimes. And it's also good to have important travel documents on your e-reader. That way you don't have to, like, if you need something to book, like transport or something, you have all the important addresses and your flight information on your e-reader. And people are probably less prone to look in your e-reader than, say, in your papers or whatever. Also, however, I have discovered that I read slowly because I take notes, and because one page in a physical book takes like 4 pages in my e-reader. So I read slowly, and that's why I prefer physical books. I read these much more quicker, actually. But sometimes there are, because of self-publishing, there are people that self-publish their books in a physical form, but more people publish their books as ebooks. And that means that sometimes really great books are only available as an ebook. So sometimes you don't have an option. So it's good to have an e-reader in that sense. It's also much more easier to have a backup. You can have them on your email or on the shop that you bought them from. Because if, say, something happens, especially for those people that live in natural disaster areas, what would you do? I mean, your physical books could easily get damaged. It also helps when you are relocating, having everything in one place rather than having a lot of books that you have to move from one place to another. That said, with a physical book, you do see progress. You also feel more connected. We are more of a tactile, we as humans are tactile persons. And I think also as a bibliophile, I mean, I have a lot of books. You can see them now. There. I have a lot of books and I like it that way. But sometimes, as I have said, you don't have options. And I know some really great books that are only books, so I want them. And that way I will have to purchase the ebook. The downfall of both is that both are dominated by big corporations. Ebooks, there's Amazon mostly, and there's currently some problems with Amazon and some publishing houses. And books are also owned by big corporations as well. That would limit your options usually, although they would have smaller branches. But there is self-publishing for both, and I feel that ebooks are much easier to self-publish. Also imagine if something happened to where your books are stored. Either the site gets hacked, your email, whatever, you would lose everything. Whereas, even though, for example, there's a natural disaster, you can still save a couple of your favorite books, but most of them, I mean, you would still manage to get something, but most of your ebooks, if something were to happen to the internet at large, if it comes to that, then you would have lost a lot of things. A good thing for both is vouchers. You can get, for example, birthday vouchers from bookstores, or even, for example, Amazon and all those sites have also coupons, which you can have a code, and in that sense they are both good to give gifts. I don't suggest, unless you know someone's taste, to give them an actual physical book, but a voucher to a shop is good. As a bibliophile, you can display your physical books but you can't display your ebooks, unfortunately. Even if you have pouches, it's still just notes, it's not the actual book. And that is probably why, along with the fact that I read them faster and I like to have them printed, I read quicker and the covers are nice, which is why, even though there are a lot of advantages to having any reader and reading ebooks, I still prefer physical books. But ebooks could be useful in certain situations. That's it for now, and I hope to see you next Thursday with another poem. Bye.